Welcome back, in part 7 of PlayStation. Anyways, let's continue.
The PlayStation Portable, PSP, was Sony's first handheld console to compete with Nintendo's DS console.
The original model, PSP 1000, was released in December 2004 and March 2005. The console is the first to utilize a new proprietary optical storage medium known as Universal Media Disc, UMD, which can store both games and movies.
It contains 32 megabytes of internal flash memory storage, expandable via memory stick Pro Duo cards.
It has a similar control layout to the PS3, with its PlayStation logo button and its triangle, circle/O, cross/X and square buttons, in their white-colored forms.
The PSP 2000, also known as the Slim and Light and PAL territories, was the first major hardware revision of the PlayStation Portable, released in September 2007.
The 2000 series was 33% lighter and 19% slimmer than the original PlayStation Portable.
The capacity of the battery was also reduced by 1/3, but the runtime remained the same as the previous model due to lower power consumption.
Older model batteries will still work and they extend the amount of playing time.
The PSP Slim and Light has a new gloss finish.
Its serial port was also modified in order to accommodate a new video out feature while rendering older PSP remote controls incompatible.
On a PSP 2000, PSP games will only output to external monitors or TVs in progressive scan mode, so that televisions incapable of supporting progressive scan will not display PSP games. Non-game video will output in either progressive or interlaced mode.
USB charging was also made possible.
Buttons are also reportedly more responsive on the PSP 2000.
In 2008, Sony released a second hardware revision, called the PSP 3000, which included several features that were not present in the PSP 2000, such as a built-in microphone and upgraded screen, as well as the ability to output PSP games in interlaced mode.
Released in October 2009, the PSP Go is the biggest redesign of the PlayStation Portable to date.
Unlike previous PSP models, the PSP Go does not feature a UMD drive but instead has 16 gigabytes of internal flash memory to store games, videos and other media.
This can be extended by up to 32 gigabytes with the use of a memory stick micro M2 flash card.
Also, unlike previous PSP models, the PSP Go's rechargeable battery is not removable or replaceable by the user.
The unit is 43% lighter and 56% smaller than the original PSP 1000 and 16% lighter and 35% smaller than the PSP 3000.
It has a 3.8-inch 480 by 272 LCD, compared to the larger 4.3-inch 480 by 272 pixel LCD on previous PSP models.
The screen slides up to reveal the main controls.
The overall shape and sliding mechanism are similar to that of Sony's Millicom 2 internet device.
The PSP Go was produced and sold concurrently with its predecessor, the PSP 3000, although it did not replace it.
handheld games on the PSP Go must be purchased and downloaded from the PlayStation Store, as the handheld is not compatible with the original PSP's physical media, the Universal Media Disc.
The handheld also features connectivity with a PlayStation 3's controllers, the 6-axis and DualShock 3 via Bluetooth connection. The PSP Street, also known as the PSP E1000, is a budget-focused PSP model which, unlike previous PSP models, does not feature Wi-Fi or stereo speakers, replaced by a single mono speaker, and has a matte, charcoal black finish similar to the slim PlayStation 3.
The 1000 was announced at Gamescom 2011 and available across the PAL region for an RRP of €99.99.
The PlayStation Portable, PSP, is a handheld game console developed and marketed by Sony Computer Entertainment.
It was first released in Japan on December 12, 2004, in North America on March 24, 2005, and in PAL regions on September 1, 2005, and is the first handheld installment in the PlayStation line of consoles.
As a 7th generation console, the PSP competed with a Nintendo DS. Development of the PSP was announced during E3 2003, and the console was unveiled at a Sony press conference on May 11, 2004.
The system was the most powerful portable console at the time of its introduction, and was the first viable competitor to Nintendo's handheld consoles after many challengers such as Nokia's N-Gage had failed.
The PSP's advanced graphics capabilities made it a popular mobile entertainment device which could connect to the PlayStation 2 and PlayStation 3. Any computer with a USB interface, other PSP systems, and the internet.
The PSP also had a vast array of multimedia features such as video playback, audio playback, and has been considered a portable media player as well.
The PSP is the only handheld console to use an optical disc format, in this case, Universal Media Disc, UMD, as its primary storage medium. Both games and movies have been released on the format. The PSP was received positively by critics, and sold over 80 million units during its 10-year lifetime.
Several models of the console were released before the PSP line was succeeded by the PlayStation Vita, released in Japan first in 2011 and worldwide a year later.
The Vita has backward compatibility with PSP games that were released on the PlayStation Network through the PlayStation Store, which became the main method of purchasing PSP games until Sony shut down access to the store from the PSP on March 31, 2016.
Hardware shipments of the PSP ended worldwide in 2014. Production of UMDs ended when the last Japanese factory producing them closed in late 2016.
The PSP had multiple versions over its initial release, including the PSP Street and the PSP Go. Sony Computer Entertainment first announced development of the PlayStation Portable at a press conference preceding E3 2003.
Although samples were not presented, Sony released extensive technical details.
CEO Ken Kutarashi called the device the Walkman of the 21st century, a reference to the console's multimedia capabilities.
Several gaming websites were impressed with the handheld's computing capabilities and looked forward to its potential as a gaming platform.
In the 1990s, Nintendo had dominated the handheld market, since launching its Game Boy in 1989, experiencing close competition only from Sega's Game Gear, 1990 to 1997. and Panda's Wonder Swan, 1999 to 2001, and Wonder Swan Color, 2000 to 2004, in Japan.
In January 1999, Sony had released the briefly successful Pocket Station in Japan as its first foray into the handheld gaming market.
The SNK Neo Geo Pocket and Nokia N-Gage also failed to cut into Nintendo share.
According to an IDC analyst, in 2004, the PSP was the first legitimate competitor to Nintendo's dominance in the handheld market.
The first concept images of the PSP appeared at a Sony corporate strategy meeting in November 2003 and featured a model with flat buttons and no analog joystick.
Although some reviewers expressed concern about the lack of an analog stick, these fears were allayed when the PSP was officially unveiled at the Sony press conference during E3 2004.
Sony released a list of 99 developer companies that pledged support for the new handheld.
Several game demos such as Konami's Metal Gear Acid and Studio Liverpool's Wipeout Pure were also shown at the conference.
The PSP's development posed several challenges for Sony and third-party developers, with battery life being a primary concern.
To address this, Sony implemented power management strategies, including restricting the CPU to 2/3 of its full speed for the first few years.
The Universal Media Disc, UMD, drive was another significant hurdle as it drained the battery and had slow read speeds.
Developers had to optimize their game data layout to minimize disk access and reduce power consumption.
These limitations sometimes led to performance constraints and long loading times, with some titles like WWE SmackDown vs. Raw 2006 experiencing load times of up to 2 minutes for certain scenes. On October 18, 2004, Sony announced that the PSP base model would be launched in Japan on December 11 that year for 19,800 yen, about US $181 in 2004. While the value system would launch for 24,800 yen, about US $226.
The launch was a success, with over 200,000 units sold on the first day of sales.
Color variations were sold in bundle packs that cost around $200.
On February 3, 2005, Sony announced that the PSP would be released in North America on March 24 in one configuration for an MSRP of US $249/$299 Canadian dollars.
Some commentators expressed concern over the high price, which was almost US $20 higher than that of the Japanese model and over $100 higher than the Nintendo DS.
Despite these concerns, the PSP's North American launch was a success. Sony said 500,000 units were sold in the first 2 days of sales, though it was also reported that this figure was below expectations.
The PSP was originally intended to have a simultaneous PAL and North American launch, but on March 15, 2005, Sony announced that the PAL launch would be delayed due to high demand for the console in Japan and North America.
The next month, Sony announced that the PSP would be launched in the PAL region on September 1, 2005, for €249/179.
Sony defended the high price by saying North American consumers had to pay local sales taxes and that the value-added tax sales tax was higher in the UK than the US.
Despite the high price, the PSP's PAL launch was a success, with the console selling over 185,000 units in the UK.
All stock of the PSP in the UK sold out within 3 hours of its launch, more than doubling the previous first-day sales record of 87,000 units set by the Nintendo DS.
The system also enjoyed great success in other areas of the PAL region. Over 25,000 units were pre-ordered in Australia and nearly 1 million units were sold across Europe in the system's first week of sales.
The PlayStation Portable uses a common R form factor.
The original model measures approximately 6.7 by 2.9 by 0.9 inches, 170 by 74 by 23 millimeters, and weighs 9.9 ounces, 280 grams.
The front of the console is dominated by the system's 4.3-inch, 110mm LCD screen, which is capable of 480 by 272 pixel display resolution with 24-bit color, outperforming the Nintendo DS.
Also on the unit's front are the 4 iconic PlayStation face buttons: triangle, circle/O, cross/X, square, the directional pad, the analog nub, and several other buttons.
The system also has 2 shoulder buttons, a USB 2.0 mini keyboard on the top of the console, and a wireless LAN switch and power cable input on the bottom.
The back of the PSP features a read-only Universal Media Disc, UMD, drive for access to movies and games, and the reader compatible with Sony's Memory Stick Pro Duo flash cards is located on the left of the system.
Other features include an the compatible infrared port. This was discontinued in PSP 2000 and later, and the 2-pin docking connector, built-in stereo speakers and headphone port, and IEEE 802.11b Wi-Fi for access to the internet, free online multiplayer gaming via PlayStation Network, the ability to purchase games from PlayStation Store, now discontinued, and data transfer. The PSP uses 2 333MHz MIPS32 R4000 R4K based CPUs as a main CPU and media engine, a GPU running at 166 MHz. And includes 32MB main RAM, 64MB on PSP 2000 and later models, and 4MB embedded DRAM split between the aforementioned GPU and media engine.
The hardware was originally forced to run more slowly than it was capable of. Most games ran at 222 MHz.
With firmware update 3.50 on May 31, 2007, however, Sony removed this limit and allowed new games to run at 333 MHz. The PSP is powered by an 1800 mAh battery, 1200 mAh on the 2000 and 3000 models. That provides between about 3 and 6 hours of gameplay, between 4 and 5 hours of video playback, or between 8 and 11 hours of audio playback. To make the unit slimmer, the capacity of the PSP's battery was reduced from 1800 mAh to 1200 mAh in the PSP 2000 and 3000 models.
The original high-capacity batteries work on the newer models, giving increased playing time, though the battery cover does not fit.
The batteries take about 1.5 hours to charge and last for between 4.5 and 7 hours depending on factors such as screen brightness settings, the use of WLAN, and volume levels.
In March 2008, Sony released the Extended Life Battery Kit in Japan, which included a bulkier 2200 mAh battery with a fitting cover.
In Japan, the kit was sold with a specific color cover matching the many PSP variations available.
The North American kit released in December 2008 was supplied with two new covers, one black and one silver.
The PSP 2000, marketed in PAL countries as the PSP Slim and Light, is the first redesign of the PlayStation Portable.
The PSP 2000 system is slimmer and lighter than the original PSP, reduced from 0.91 to 0.73 inches, 23 to 18.6 millimeters, and from 9.87 to 6.66 ounces, 280 to 189 grams.
At E3 2007, Sony released information about a slimmer and lighter version for the device, which was first released in Hong Kong on August 30, 2007. In Europe on September 5, in North America on September 6, in South Korea on September 7, and in Australia on September 12.
Whoa!
The UK release for the PSP 2000 was September 14.
The serial port was modified to accommodate a new video out feature, making it incompatible with older PSP remote controls.
On the PSP 2000, games only output to external monitors and televisions in progressive scan mode.
Non-game video outputs work in either progressive or interlaced mode.
USB charging was introduced and the D-pad was raised in response to complaints of poor performance, and the responsiveness of the buttons was improved.
Other changes include improved WLAN modules and microcontroller, and the thinner, brighter LCD screen.
To improve the poor loading times of UMD games on the original PSP, the internal memory, RAM and flash ROM was doubled from 32 megabytes to 64 megabytes, part of which now acting as a cache, also improving the web browser's performance.
In comparison with a PSP 2000, the 3000, marketed in PAL areas as PSP Slim and Light or PSP Bright, has an improved LCD screen with an increased color range, 5 times the contrast ratio, a halved pixel response time, new sub-pixel structure, and anti-reflective technology to reduce outdoor glare.
The disc tray, logos, and buttons were all redesigned, and a microphone was added.
Games could now be output in either component or composite video using the video out cable.
One outlet called this model a minor upgrade.
The PSP 3000 was released in North America on October 14, 2008, in Japan on October 16, in Europe on October 17, and in Australia on October 23.
In its first 4 days on sale in Japan, the PSP 3000 sold over 141,270 units. According to Famitsu, it sold 267,000 units during October.
On its release, a problem with interlacing when objects were in motion on the PSP 3000 screen was noticed.
Sony announced this problem would not be fixed.
The PSP Go model TaBNWNE was released on October 1, 2009 in North American and European territories and on October 31 in Japan.
It was revealed prior to E3 2009 through Sony's Core Video on Demand service.
Its design is significantly different from other PSP models. The unit is 43% lighter and 56% smaller than the original PSP 1000 and 16% lighter and 35% smaller than the PSP 3000.
Its rechargeable battery is not intended to be removed by the user.
It has a 3.8-inch, 97mm, 480 by 272-pixel LCD screen which slides up to reveal the main controls.
The overall shape and sliding mechanism are similar to those of Sony's Millicom 2 internet device.
The PSP Go features 802.11b Wi-Fi like its predecessors, although the USB port was replaced with a proprietary connector.
A compatible cable that connects to other devices' USB ports is included with the unit.
The new multi-use connector allows video and sound output with the same connector using an optional composite or component AV cable.
As with previous models, Sony also offers a cradle, PSTN340 for charging, video out, and USB data transfer on the PSP Go.
This model adds support for Bluetooth connectivity, which enables the playing of games using a 6-axis or DualShock 3 controller.
The use of the cradle with a controller allows players to use the PSP Go as a portable device and as a console, although the output is not upscaled.
PlayStation 1 games can be played in full screen using the AV/component cable or the cradle. The PSP Go lacks a UMD drive and instead has 16 GB of internal flash memory, which can be extended by up to 32 GB with the use of a memory stick micro M2.
Games must be downloaded from the PlayStation Store.
The removal of the UMD drive effectively region locks the unit, because it must be linked to a single region-locked PlayStation Network account.
While the PSP Go can download games to itself, users can also download and transfer games to the device from a PlayStation 3 console or the Windows-based software Media Go.
All downloadable PSP and PlayStation games available for older PSP models are compatible with the PSP Go.
Sony confirmed that almost all UMD-based PSP games released after October 1, 2009 would be available to download, and that most older UMD-only games would also be downloadable.
In February 2010, it was reported that Sony might relaunch the PSP Go due to the lack of consumer interest and poor sales.
Whoa!
In June 2010, Sony began bundling the console with 10 free downloadable games. The same offer was made available in Australia in July.
3 free games for the PSP Go were offered in America.
In October that year, Sony announced it would reduce the price of the unit.
On April 20, 2011, the manufacturer announced that the PSP Go would be discontinued outside of North America so it could concentrate on the PlayStation Vita. The PSP E1000, which was announced at Gamescom 2011, is a budget-focused model that was released across the PAL region on October 26 of that year.
The E1000 model lacks Wi-Fi capability and has a matte finish similar to that of the slim PlayStation 3.
It has a mono speaker instead of the previous model's stereo speakers and lacks a microphone.
This model also lacked the physical brightness buttons from the front of the handheld, instead offering brightness controls in the system software's power save settings menu.
A nice white version was released in PAL territories on July 20, 2012. The PSP was sold in 4 main configurations.
The base pack, called the Core Pack in North America, contained a console, a battery, and an AC adapter.
This version was available at launch in Japan and was released later in North America and Europe. Many limited editions of the PSP were bundled with accessories, games, or movies. The first two initial releases of the Slims in North America were both on September 10, 2007 for the Daxter PSP.
Included with the bundle was a nice silver PSP with a Daxter UMD, the Family Guy, Freaking Sweet Collection, and a 1 GB memory stick for usage.
The other was a piano black-only PSP. Limited edition models were first released in Japan on September 12, 2007, North America and Europe on September 5, in Australia on September 12, and in the UK on October 26.
The PSP 2000 was made available in piano black, ceramic white, ice silver, mint green, fuchsia blue, lavender purple, deep red, matte bronze, metallic blue, and rose pink as standard colors.
Several special edition consoles were colored and finished to sell with certain games, including Crisis Core, Final Fantasy VII, Ice Silver engraved, Star Ocean, First Departure, Felicia Blue engraved, Gundam, Red Gloss / Matte Black, and Monster Hunter Freedom, Gold silk screened in Japan, Star Wars, Darth Vader silk screened, and God of War, Chains of Olympus, Kratos silk screened. In North America, The Simpsons, bright yellow with white buttons, analog and disc tray in Australia and New Zealand, and Spider-Man, red gloss / matte black in Europe. The PSP 3000 was made available in piano black, pearl white, mystic silver, radiant red, vibrant blue, spirited green, blossom pink, turquoise green, and lilac purple for standard colors.
For limited edition colors were Big Boss Pack of Metal Gear Solid, Peace Walker had a camouflage pattern, while the God of War, Ghost of Sparta Bundle Pack included a black and red two-toned PSP.
The Dissidia 012 Final Fantasy Cosmos and Chaos Edition that was released on March 3, 2011 has an Amano artwork as the PSP's faceplate. Below is a comparison of the different PlayStation portable models. The PSP runs a custom operating system, referred to as the system software, which can be updated over the internet, or by loading an update from a memory stick or UMD.
Sony does not provide a method to perform operating system downgrades.
While system software updates can be used with consoles from any region, Sony recommends only downloading updates released for the model's region.
System software updates have added many features, including a web browser, Adobe Flash support, additional codecs for various media, PlayStation 3, PS3, connectivity, and patches against security exploits and the execution of homebrew programs.
The most recent version, number 6.61, was released on January 15, 2015. The PSP Internet Browser is a version of the NetFront browser and came with a system via the 2.00 update.
The browser supports most common web technologies, such as HTTP cookies, forms, CSS, and basic JavaScript.
It features basic tab browsing and has a maximum of 3 tabs. Remote Play allows the PSP to access many of the features of the PlayStation 3 console from a remote location using the PS3's WLAN capabilities, a home network, or the internet.
Whoa!
Using Remote Play, users can view photographs, listen to music, and watch videos stored on the PS3 or connected USB devices.
Remote Play also allows the PS3 to be turned on and off remotely and lets the PSP control audio playback from the PS3 to a home theater system.
Although most of the PS3's capabilities are accessible with Remote Play, playback of DVDs, Blu-ray discs, PlayStation games, PlayStation 2 games, most PS3 games, and copy-protected files stored on the hard drive are not supported.
Starting with System Software version 3.90, the PSP 2000, 3000, and Go could use the Skype VoIP service.
Due to hardware constraints, it was not possible to use the service on the PSP 1000.
The service allowed Skype calls to be made over Wi-Fi and on the go over the Bluetooth modem.
Users had to purchase Skype credit to make telephone calls.
Skype for PlayStation Portable was discontinued on June 22, 2016. At Tokyo Game Show 2009, Sony announced that a service similar to PlayStation Home, the PS3's online community-based service, was being developed for the PSP.
Named Room, stylized Room, R Infinity symbol M, it was being beta tested in Japan from October 2009 to April 2010.
It could be launched directly from the PlayStation Network section of the XMB.
As in Home, PSP owners would have been able to invite other PSP owners into their rooms to enjoy real-time communication.
Development of Room halted on April 15, 2010, due to feedback from the community. The SendMe software, which had already existed on some Walkman music players and Sony Ericsson handsets, was added to the PSP through a software update in 2009.
It is a music analyzer that reads music files stored on the PSP and categorizes them into channels representing moods and creates automatic playlists from it.
The PSP has support for the playback of MP3 and FRAC audio files, as well as WMA since firmware version 2.60. Sony partnered with publishers such as Rebellion Developments, Disney, IDW Publishing, Insomnia Publications, iVerse, Marvel Comics, and Titan Books to release digitized comics on the PlayStation Store.
The digital comics reader application required PSP firmware 6.20.
The PlayStation Store's comic section premiered in Japan on December 10, 2009, with licensed publishers ASCII Media Works, Enter Green, Kadokawa, Kodansha, Shueisha, Shigekikan, Square Enix, SoftBank Creative, HQ Comics, Akizensha, Bandai Visual, Fujima Soko, Futabasha, and Buntasha.
It launched in the United States and in English-speaking PAL countries on December 16, 2009, though the first issues of a Leicester Arcane, Astro Boy movie adaptation, Star Trek, Enterprise Experiment and Transformers, All Hail Megatron, were made available as early as November 20 through limited-time PlayStation Network redemption codes.
In early 2010, the application was expanded to the German, French, Spanish, and Italian languages.
The choice of regional comic reader software is dictated by the PSP's firmware region. The Japanese comic reader will not display comics purchased from the European store, and vice versa.
Sony shut down the digital comics service in September 2012. In Japanese market PSPs, an application called X-Radar Portable came preloaded starting with firmware version 6.35, January 2010.
This is a port of a map software for PCs and mobile phones called X-Radar, developed by TaBNWNE.
X-Radar Portable gets the location of the PSP on a map and obtains information of places around the user.
It determines the location through place engine technology via wireless LAN spots.
On June 15, 2005, hackers disassembled the code of the PSP and distributed it online.
Initially, the modified PSP allowed users to run custom code in a limited amount of protected software, including custom-made PSP applications such as a calculator or file manager.
Sony responded to this by repeatedly upgrading the software.
Some users were able to unlock the firmware to allow them to run more custom content and DRM-restricted software.
Hackers were able to run protected software on the PSP through the creation of ISO loaders that could load copies of UMD games from a memory stick.
Custom firmware including the M33 Custom Firmware Minimum Edition ME/LME, CFW and PROCFW were commonly seen in PSP systems.
The management of media content of the PSP through personal computers was fulfilled by Sony's PSP Media Manager software for Windows, allowing transfer as well as music/video playback and backups.
In 2009, the PSP Media Manager was replaced by MediaGo.
There were 1,370 games released for the PSP during its 10-year lifespan.
Launch games for PSP included Ape Escape, On the Loose, North America, Europe, Japan, Darkstalkers Chronicle, The Chaos Tower, North America, Europe, Japan. Dynasty Warriors, all regions, Lemons, Puzzle Fusion, North America, Europe, Japan, Metal Gear Acid, North America, Europe, Japan. Need for Speed, Underground Rivals, North America, Europe, Japan, NFL Street 2, Unleashed, North America, Europe, Ridge Racer, North America, Europe, Japan. Spider-Man 2, 2004, North America, Europe, Japan. Tiger Woods PGA Tour, North America, Europe, Japan. Tony Hawk's Underground 2 Remix, North America, Europe. Twisted Metal, Head On, North America, Europe. Untold Legends, Brotherhood of the Blade, North America, Europe, Japan. Wipeout Tour, all regions, and World Tour Soccer, Challenge Edition, North America, Europe.
Additionally, Gretzky NHL and NBA were North America exclusive launch titles.
The best-selling PSP game is Grand Theft Auto Liberty City Stories, which sold 7.5 million copies as of 20 July 2013.
Other top-selling PSP games include Grand Theft Auto, Vice City Stories, Monster Hunter Portable 3rd, Gran Turismo, and Monster Hunter Freedom Unite.
Retro City Rampage DX, which was released in July 2016, was the final PSP game that was released.
The best rated PSP games on Metacritic are God of War, Ghost of Sparta, Grand Theft Auto, Vice City Stories, and Daxter. Metal Gear Solid, Peace Walker is the only PSP game to receive a perfect score from Famitsu.
During E3 2006, Sony Computer Entertainment America announced that the greatest hits range of budget titles were to be extended to the PSP system.
On July 25, 2006, Sony Computer Entertainment America released the first batch of greatest hits titles.
The these titles included Ape Escape, On the Loose, ATV Off-Road Fury, Blazing Trails, Hot Shots, Open T, Twisted Metal, Head On, and Wipeout Pure.
The PSP Greatest Hits lineup consists of games that have sold 250,000 copies or more and have been released for 9 months.
PSP games in this lineup retail for $19.99 each.
Downloadable games were limited to 1.8 gigabytes, most likely to guarantee potential UMD release.
A section of the PlayStation Store was dedicated to smaller, cheaper games available as download only.
Trophy support was planned for the PSP, but the idea was cancelled after the firmware was cracked. In late 2004, Sony released a series of PSP demo games, including Duck in Water, World/Wall, Harmonic City, and Luna City.
Demos for commercial PSP games could be downloaded and booted directly from a memory stick.
Demos were sometimes issued in UMD format and mailed out or given to customers at retail outlets.
In addition, several older PlayStation games were re-released. These can be played on the PSP using emulation.
As of 2008, this feature could be officially accessed through the PlayStation Network service for PlayStation 3, PSP, PlayStation Vita, or PlayStation TV, or a personal computer.
Emulation of the PSP is well developed. The first emulator was PSP Player by Noxa, which ran on Z-Hash. Then afterwards was JPCSP, which ran on Java.
Whoa!
PPSSPP is currently the fastest and most compatible PSP emulator. It supports all major games. In mid-2009, as larger memory stick storage became available for the PSP, the ability to pre-install some or all data from a game became a feature in certain games.
Although for a large majority of the games the feature merely improved load times, there were a small number of games that added features, such as speech in Metal Gear Solid, Peace Walker.
Official accessories for the console include an AC adapter, car adapter, headset, headphones with remote control, extended life 2200 mAh battery, battery charger, console carrying case, game carrying case, accessories pouch and cleaning cloth, and system pouch and wrist strap.
A one-seg television tuner peripheral, model PSP S310, designed specifically for the PSP 2000, was released in Japan on September 20, 2007.
Sony sold a GPS accessory for the PSP 2000. This was released first in Japan and announced for the United States in 2008.
It features maps on a UMD and offers driving directions and city guides.
A digital camera add-on, the GoCam, was also released. After the discontinuation of PSP, the Chinese electronics company Lincoln released a PSP to HDMI converter called the LKV 8000.
The device is compatible with a PSP 2000, PSP 3000, and PSP Go.
To overcome the problem of PSP games being displayed in a small window surrounded by a black border, the LKV 8000 has a zoom button on the connector.
A few other Chinese companies have released clones of this upscaler under different names, like the Pile PSP HD42.
The LKV 8000 and its variants have become popular among players and reviewers as the only means of playing and recording PSP gameplay on a large screen. The PSP received generally positive reviews soon after launch. Most reviewers noted similar strengths and weaknesses.
CNET awarded the system 8.5 out of 10 and praised the console's powerful hardware and its multimedia capabilities, but lamented the lack of a guard to cover the screen and the reading surface of UMD cartridges.
Engadget praised the console's design, stating that it is definitely one well-designed, slick little handheld.
PC World commended the built-in Wi-Fi capability but criticized the lack of a web browser at launch and the glare and smudges that resulted from the console's glossy exterior.
Most reviewers also praised the console's large, bright viewing screen and its audio and video playback capabilities.
In 2008, Time listed that the PSP as a gotta-have travel gadget, citing the console's movie selection, telecommunications capability, and upcoming GPS functionality.
The PlayStation Portable was initially seen as superior to the Nintendo DS when both devices were revealed in early 2004 because of the designer's emphasis on the technical accomplishments of the system.
Nintendo of America President Reggie Fils-Aime, however, focused on the experience aspect of the Nintendo DS.
The DS started to become more popular than the PSP early on because it attracted more third-party developers and appealed more to the casual gaming market.
The DS sold more units partly because of its touchscreen and second display.
From a multimedia perspective, the PSP has also been seen as a competitor to portable media players, notably the iPod Video that was released in the same year. Reviews of the PSP were mixed.
It was mainly criticized for its initial pricing. Ars Technica called it way too expensive, and The Guardian stated that cost was the biggest issue facing the machine.
Engadget said the Go cost only $50 less than the PS3, which has a Blu-ray player.
Wired said the older PSP 3000 model was cheaper and supports UMDs, and IGN stated that the price increase made the PSP Go a hard sell.
The placement of the analog stick next to the D-pad was also criticized.
Reviewers also commented on the change from a mini USB port to a proprietary port, making hardware and cables bought for previous models incompatible.
The Go screen was positively received by Ars Technica, which called the screen's image brilliant, sharp and clear, and T3 stated that pictures and videos look great.
The controls received mixed reviews. The Times described them as instantly familiar, whereas CNET and Stuff called the position of the analog stick awkward.
The device's capability to use a PS3 controller was praised by the New Zealand Herald, but Ars Technica criticized the need to connect the controller and the Go to a PS3 for initial setup. On March 31, 2007, the PlayStation Portable had shipped 25.39 million units worldwide, with 6.92 million in Asia, 9.58 million in North America, and 8.89 million in Europe.
In Europe, the PSP sold 4 million units in 2006 and 3.1 million in 2007, according to estimates by Electronic Arts.
In 2007, the PSP sold 3.82 million units in the US, according to the NPD Group, and 3,022,659 in Japan, according to Enterbrain.
In 2008, the PSP sold 3,543,171 units in Japan, according to Enterbrain.
In the United States, the PSP had sold 10.47 million units by January 1, 2008, according to the NPD Group.
In Japan, during the week March 24 to 30, 2008, the PSP nearly outsold all of the other game consoles combined, selling 129,986 units, some of which were bundled with Monster Hunter Portable 2nd G, which was the best-selling game in that week, according to Media Create.
As of December 28, 2008, the PSP had sold 11,078,484 units in Japan, according to Enterbrain.
In Europe, the PSP had sold 12 million units as of May 6, 2008, according to SCE Europe.
In the United Kingdom, the PSP had sold 3.2 million units as of January 3, 2009, according to GFK Chart Track. From 2006 to the third quarter of 2010, the PSP sold 53 million units.
In a 2009 interview, Peter Dillon, Sony's senior vice president of marketing, said piracy of video games was leading to lower sales than hoped.
Despite being aimed at a different audience, the PSP competed directly with a Nintendo DS.
During the last few years of its life cycle, sales of the PSP models started to decrease.
Shipments to North America ended in January 2014, later in Europe, and on June 3, 2014, Sony announced sales of the device in Japan would end.
Reduction of the device and sales to the rest of Asia would continue.
During its lifetime, the PSP sold 80 million fewer units than the Nintendo DS. In late 2005, Sony said it had hired graffiti artists to spray paint advertisements for the PSP in 7 major U.S. cities, including New York City, Atlanta, Philadelphia, and San Francisco.
According to Sony, it was paying businesses and building owners for the right to spray paint their walls.
A year later, Sony ran a poster campaign in England. A poster bearing the slogan, "Take a running jump here," was removed from a Manchester Piccadilly station tram platform due to concerns it might encourage suicide. Later in 2006, news of a billboard advertisement released in the Netherlands depicting a white woman holding a black woman by the jaw, saying, "PlayStation Portable White is coming," spread.
Two similar advertisements existed. One showed the two women facing each other on equal footing in fighting stances. The other showed the black woman in a dominant position on top of the white woman.
Sony's stated purpose was to contrast the white and black versions of the PSP, but the advertisements were interpreted as being racially charged.
These advertisements were never released in the rest of the world and were withdrawn from the Netherlands after the controversy.
The advertisement attracted international press coverage, and Gadget said Sony may have hoped to capitalize on a PR firestorm. Sony came under scrutiny online in December 2006 for a guerrilla marketing campaign in which advertisers posed as young bloggers who desperately wanted a PSP.
The site, All I Want for Christmas is a PSP.com, appeared to have been designed by two friends and featured downloadable PSP greetings cards and t-shirt transfers.
It also hosted a video showing Cousin Pete rapping about the handheld.
The authors described the blog as, "Consider us your own personal PSP hype machine, here to help you wage a holiday assault on your parents, girl, granny, boss, whoever, so they know what you really want."
Whoa!
The blog entries were written in a mixture of leet speak and smacked hard.
I, Charlie, have a PSP. My friend Jeremy does not. But he wants one this year for Christmas, fake authors, C&J wrote. So we started clowning with some not-so-subtle hints to Jay's parents that a PSP would be a perfect gift. We created this site to spread the love to those like Jay who want a PSP.
Whoa!
Additionally, the blog author also uploaded a video of a guy rapping about wanting a PSP for Christmas.
Sony and TaBNWNE were outed on the blog itself by tech-savvy critics, who reportedly found the blog's registration data through an online search and tracked it back to Gregory Markert at advertising firm TaBNWNE.
At E3 2010, Sony created a fictional 12-year-old character that was used by Sony Computer Entertainment America as part of their Step Your Game, a advertising campaign for the PlayStation Portable and PSP, Go consoles in North America. As part of the PlayStation Freeze, it only does everything advertising campaign.
The character, Marcus Rivers, was played by child actor Bob J. Thompson and started as the publicist of the PlayStation Portable division of Sony, responding to Dear PSP queries.
Marcus was additionally used to advertise games for the system.
The character was eventually discontinued due to his negative reception, with the Dear PSP campaign continuing without them. We will continue more about PlayStation in Part 8, so stay tuned everyone.